What's up guys? I'm going to be talking about my initial thoughts on the Red Komodo. So last weekend I rented for the first time ever a Red Komodo. Red Komodo is Red's cheapest cinema camera, and I had always been fascinated with Red from a young age, and I wanted to finally give it a shot. So I spent the past month preparing to shoot over 8 projects in a weekend. I'm just getting to editing it. So the Red Komodo is a very interesting camera that I've always been fascinated with because of its competitive price point. The Red Komodo was designed as a crash cam, so some sort of camera that you would put on a car and you're in a car chase and it gets destroyed and it's not the end of the world. However, a lot of the indie filmmakers picked it up and started to realize the potential that this camera had. There's definitely a lot of quirks with it, but first I want to talk about what I liked. So I really liked the form factor of this camera. This camera is a cube shape and you basically just build it out from there. The kit from the rental house basically had a mini V-mount plate on the back and then a side handle and a small HD 7-inch monitor on top. Super simple and generic design that I thought was just phenomenal. Shooting with it was so much fun. It really was a simple experience, just something that I've never shot with before. It's nothing that I can't really compare it to anything I've used before. I would say it reminds me of Blackmagic a lot, and I can see where Blackmagic is taking their inspiration from. So one of the weird things about it is it has a tiny display on the top of the camera, and that's where you change your settings, and then you're supposed to have an external monitor, or if you're just running a feed from a camera, you're not supposed to put a monitor on it. And so what that means is you're doing all these settings on this really tiny touchscreen. It reminds me of an Apple Watch. I know it's bigger than an Apple Watch, but it's just this tiny screen on there that you're using the arrow buttons and changing settings. And I thought that was a little bit, not difficult, but just annoying to deal with. But the things that I loved about the camera was the colors. Every time I shot something out of it, I was just blown away by the colors. It's the color science that Red has that actually allows you to get better reds, better skin tones, and better greens. You can totally spend hours in Resolve on any camera and make it look pretty good. But with Red, I threw it in a timeline, threw on the LUT I shot with, and said, wow, I could literally post this if I wanted to. I'm obviously going to be doing my color workflow and spending all my hours on it, but that initial starting point is so good that if you had to quickly turn around something, I would be confident on the Red. Whereas Blackmagic or Fuji or even Canon sometimes, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get the image to where you want it to be, to make it look natural. So yeah, I thought that was a really big bonus on Red. I would also say the file size. I shot on the lowest RAW format, and I would actually argue it was smaller than the Blackmagic 12:1, and I was actually shocked. I only went through about a terabyte for all these projects, which sounds like a lot of media, but in reality, I was actually blown away at how little hard drive space I ended up using. I thought it was very interesting at how there's so many quirks. Like there's an incredibly long boot time. There's probably a minute long boot time, which it's a cinema camera. It's not supposed to be a mirrorless DSLR, I understand. But I'm like, for a camera that's so expensive and a brand that's so that's pushing the envelope of what cameras can be, it's just a little weird to see it have, a minute boot time, not like 10 seconds. I don't know. So one of the reasons why I wanted to rent the Red now rather than later is Nikon actually recently bought Red. And so what that means is, I don't even really know what that means for Red, but I have access to a lot of RF glass. And so I really wanted to shoot on the Komodo because it's the only Red that's on the RF mount. And I think that mount's phenomenal because you can adapt to almost every other mount. And I love Canon and I love what they've done and I love that mount system. So I'm wondering if Nikon's gonna make the new Red on their mount, and then it's gonna kind of make the Nikon lens mount trying to compete in the cinema market. I don't know, it's interesting. But I wanted to rent it when it was in the golden era, in my opinion. My last thoughts with it is I think the camera was a phenomenal experience, and I felt like it was much easier to make images that I found were pleasing to the eye on a Red. And maybe that's just my brain in the hype mode of I'm shooting on a Red now, I'm finally doing it. I think the tool itself makes capturing images much easier. I thought the greens looked way better and I thought the reds and the skin tones, I don't need to do a ton of color correction. I can just really focus on my grade. So if you like this video and you would be interested in more camera videos, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.